Good morning. Can you hear me?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Yes, I hear you.
Yeah, thank you.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Is that Akshay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, morning, Akshay.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Okay, I think we'll get going. And we'll get going. We'll start off where we had to unfortunately stop in the middle thanks to my falling, getting a round of rotary vertigo. So my apologies for that again. Okay, this is what we were doing yesterday. We were doing Parmenides. In Parmenides, we had reached the idea of ontology and metaphysics, as also, as an extension of this, uh, the idea that Parmenides had, which was thought and being are the same. They are not two different things. This is a very, very important thing to remember, especially when we come to Plato, we'll be re-invoking this particular thing. Okay, and where we stopped was with the um, two views of reality. And I told you, if I remember correctly, I told you that I'll discuss this uh, idea of reality when I reach Plato, and not now, because that'll this is not the time to discuss what constitutes reality. Okay, and Parmenides basically said that it is not he has two views of reality. He said in the world, two views of reality exist. One view of reality is what he called the way of the truth, which I told you in Greek is aletheia. It's pronounced as aletheia, not aletheia. It's pronounced aletheia. Uh, then we have the second view, which he called the, let me kind of, the way of opinion, or, sorry, yeah, this can be with a small n, and appearances, opinion or appearances, and this he called doxa. I think this is where we stopped, if I'm not mistaken. This is where we had stopped. So now let's pick these up. I told you that these are things that we find in his the fragments of his now famous thing, which is simply called poem. And some people say it is called On Nature, but this is not clarified. I also told you that he is suppose this is unsubstantiated, completely unsubstantiated, that this poem, whose fragments remain today, was inspired by a vision provided by a Greek goddess, whose name he doesn't seem to have mentioned. So people speculate it is either goddess Persephone or another goddess whose name is Daiki. Uh, Not Dyke. Dyke has a completely different meaning. Uh, Daiki. So this is completely a matter of or a subject of conjecture. There is nothing to prove that any such thing actually happened. Uh, in history, lots of insertions happen, and this might just be one of those insertions that has happened over a period of time. So Persephone or Dike, we don't know if they have really appeared in his dream. And today, when we have a certain kind of conception that even if there are gods and even if there is one God, that God doesn't reveal anything is well known because if you take the Bible, um, it says that it is a revelation of God. The knowledge that is available in the Bible is considered to be the revelation uh, by God. And it says the earth is the center of the universe. Till date, it says that the geocentric theory. And obviously, that is not correct. What we have is not even the center of the universe, but the center of our galaxy, which is now being named Milky Way because of the light that it shows, the white light that it radiates apparently. So that's why it's called the Milky Way. And the our sun, whom the Greeks called Helios, uh, is the center of our galaxy. Okay, and there are infinite galaxies in space. We discussed that about what constitutes space. We've discussed both the absolute conception of space and we've also uh, looked at the relativist conception of space. Either which way, um, it doesn't give us any clear picture of what space is. Okay, these are only attempts that people have made in order to clarify what might ultimately be seen as space. Uh, but I'm not I am, we are all very sure that nobody has found a meaning of space. And though we would like to believe that sciences are somehow absolute and that they deal with facts, uh, and if you look at the general idea of science that we people have, it is that somehow science has demystified the universe. But if you look at a number of theories within physics, for example, you have two theories that contradict each other. One, which is called the quantum gravity theory, and the other, which is the string theory. Uh, there is an ongoing fight, it's not resolved even today, There is an ongoing fight between physicists about which of these explains our reality better. Is it the quantum gravity theory or is it the string theory? This is just one example that an ignorant fellow like me can think about. Apart from that, I would like to bring to your notice that within the scientific method, there are controversies over time. Now, I want you to remember this point because today I'll be saying something about this um, at some juncture. There are controversies over time. One is that it believes time is a principle of physics which is absolute. Okay, that time is an absolute principle. The other one, this kind of time principle that we see is there in Newton. Okay, the other principle is the relativist principle of time, which is used by uh, Einstein. Einstein says time is not an absolute thing. Okay, time is affected by several things. And one of the things that he talks about is this thing called uh, quantum. I'm sorry, is what he calls. Why am I saying quantum gravity here? It is something which is affected by gravity. Okay, so I told you about black holes. Black holes are nothing but a star that has collapsed into itself, and therefore it is something which is full of gravity. And if you manage to enter a black hole, it is very difficult to enter a black hole apparently. So if you do get into a black hole, then you will never age because the amount of gravity is so much that time doesn't pass, doesn't move in black hole, as a result of which we see that we have people not aging at all. And I have drawn a couple of sci-fi movies to your attention to tell you how they, please don't be under the impression that all movies are like our Telugu movies and all, which are hopelessly meaningless. And uh, there is only one person in that who matters, and that is the hero. The rest are all just useless people there to support him. Uh, I mean, to get bashed by him. Some really good science fiction movies have been made, and they deal with this. I had talked to you about the original Planet of the Apes, and I had talked to you about this other movie which is called the what is that? Mm,
The wall,
not the wall. The wall is a
the wall.
no, no, not the wall. The wall is a completely different movie. Uh, no, what? How did it? How did it escape? It was just on the tip of my tongue and then it escaped.
Interstellar.
No, Interstellar, yes. Interstellar is one movie that is a sci-fi movie. But the movie that I had talked to you, well, it'll come back whenever it does. Uh, and anyway, if you've seen the Matrix, the Americans call it Matrix, the Matrix trilogy, that is also sci-fi, which has a lot of scientific theories in its foundation. Okay, a lot of scientific theories in its foundation. It explores them. Mission Impossible is also a movie to which is, well, not so scientific, but does look at some of the principles of physics. Um, I'm just unable to uh, remember the name of the movie that I had discussed with you. But even Steven Spielberg's movie, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, okay, it is set in absolutely a scientific framework, and it is science, okay, but it is being done in a relative way. Or for that matter, if you take the Jurassic Park itself, the idea that you can recreate a DNA, that is a scientific experiment that people have been doing. Okay, and therefore, so Hollywood movies have been different. They have shown the idea of time in different ways. So anyway, to come back to, let's get out of movies and to come back to the uh, two views of reality that we are seeing. Um, Aletheia is, it's what stands for the truth. Okay, so this is what obviously uh, is preferred by Parmenides. Okay, uh, here what he's saying is, in this particular context, he's saying all reality is the same and change is impossible. Ah, change impossible. Okay. Whereas the second one, which he is talking about, is that I can't even move my mouse properly. This is one of the problems in life. Mm, For me, everything is a problem in life. This is um, appearances are generated by senses, and therefore they are not reliable, false, and deceitful. Okay, he says what we see, appearances, and what we have as you know what we have as opinion of these appearances. These are generated completely by our senses. Okay, and he is somebody who did not believe in the senses. You have to keep track of these arguments, because not only do these become very important uh, for understanding, what should I say, for understanding um, the later thinkers like Plato, and probably to a certain extent even Aristotle. But apart from that, they also become extremely important, these kind of points that we are making, in the context of the positivist method of science, uh, which said a number of things and failed to substantiate them properly. And therefore, uh, when we talk about positivism in the context of interpretative theory, which is also called hermeneutics, okay, is that which came up in the modern period, though hermeneutics again is as old as the Greeks, okay, but it came up in a big way in the modern period of our history, uh, to as an alternative to the unfortunate reliance on science by the positivist method. So when we talk about the interpretative theory, we will be talking about positivism as well. Okay. Now the thing is, so the conceptions that we have when we use our senses are those which are deceitful. Um, you'll see this in the ancient Indian philosophy of tattva. Okay, tattva and padhar, pad, padartha. Okay, tattva and padartha. If you look at them, you find that there is this thing about how people can confuse a rope for a snake. Okay, and this is one particular thing, this one particular example, which is there in ancient Indian philosophy, is used by Schopenhauer, Arthur Schopenhauer, uh, and apart from the gunas that he used, I'm not going to go into that now anyway. So, but it is this idea that senses can mislead you has always been there, even in other civilizations, like the ancient Indian civilization, where people do say that you can mistake a rope for a snake, and vice versa. Vice versa, meaning you can also mistake a snake for a rope. So, a lot of things depend on what you actually see and what are the circumstances in which You see whatever you see or whatever you feel. So the usage of the senses is considered to be extremely unreliable. Okay, by not just one school of thought, but by many schools of thought. Schools of thought. The person who changed this perception is John Locke. Okay, but that is like jumping several miles. So let's not do that now, right? So this is the kind of thing that Parmenides is talking about. And it is in this context, yesterday I had talked to you about this. He had said, out of nothing, nothing comes. And if you remember, I had told you that I had given you this example wherein I basically told you that, originally I wrote day before yesterday, I think, out of nothing comes nothing. You shouldn't write it that way. I was telling you this yesterday. The reason why you cannot use it that way is because if you say out of nothing comes nothing, basically means that something comes and that nothing is not a nothing, but it is a something. It's convoluted, but logic is convoluted. I'm very sorry, but I didn't invent logic. Okay. If you say out of nothing, nothing comes, then it's okay. Okay. But if you say out of nothing comes nothing, then it basically means that something comes out of nothing. So nothing is no longer nothing, but it becomes something which is unjustifiable. Okay. 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 My dogs have decided to get enlightened there. Um, okay. Uh, Now, uh, what? Hmm, sorry. So what comes out of this is appearance. Appearance. What am I saying? Appearances are deceptive and truth. Just leave them. Just leave them. If they do something, I'll call you. And truth is one great whole. This is the the conclusion that comes out from this, by the way, I have written the spelling wrong here. Just realized. And that will have serious ramifications like that. I should have just told you to add that that is to be written. Yeah, sorry, that spelling was wrong. So he comes to this thing that all appearances are deceptive, and truth, which is thought, is one great whole, WHOLE, and not. So, truth is not fragmented. And we are talking about truth with a capital T here. Please remember that. Okay, so truth is not fragmented, and therefore, what we draw from this is all knowledge is thought or is derived out of thought, if you like. I have no problem if you add derived to that. Okay, so truth is thought. All knowledge that we have has to come from thought and not from the appearances of our senses, appearances that are available to our senses. And from here, he goes back to the idea of reality. And for him, reality conceived of by the way of truth is unity. That is the underlying uh, meaning that all knowledge is thought. Okay, because reality is the way it is conceived of by thought is a unity. It does not have disparity, nor does it have variety. Okay, nor does it have variety. So he would say, what appearance of what appearances conceive of is not unity but variety. Okay, and variety for him is untruth. Okay, and not knowledge. Variety, the very existence of variety is something which is in the nature of untruth. Okay, and therefore it cannot constitute knowledge. So what he's doing is he's asking you to go to choose the way of the truth rather than the way of uh, appearances or opinions. Okay, now as a corollary to what we've seen here, he says something which is extremely well, I can't call it funny. It's not funny. There's nothing uh, funny, but it is sort of disingenuous because he also brings in the idea of mortals. Okay, so he says there is no truth in the idea of mortals. Now, this I put down to a bad translation in what I was reading. Okay, because I could have just avoided this. You wouldn't have known anything. It would not have made any difference to you. Okay, but I brought it up because if you read a similarly bad translation, in fact, I'm talking about Gomperz, who's actually a great Greek scholar. Uh, he's an extraordinary Greek scholar, but even extraordinary people are known to make ordinary mistakes. He says that Parmenides said this: no truth in the ideas. Why does this always happen like this? Ideas of mortals. Now, who is he talking about then? And ontology is about being. Being is about people. So, who are these mortals? Okay, this makes absolutely no sense. So, if any of you confront this particular idea, please remember that it is not something Parmenides would have said. Okay, it somehow has crept in as a bad translation because Parmenides didn't write in English, he wrote in Greek. And Greek is a very versatile language compared to the other European languages. So this must be an error of translation. Okay, if you say that there's no truth in the ideas of mortals, then who are you talking about? Are you talking about divine beings? Then I tried to connect that to that again, which is not really a reliable story, that the poem, we were talking about the poem, and the poem as being something which is a revelation by goddess, either of these goddesses, or by one of these goddesses, Persephone or Dike. Is it that? But I have searched other these things and I have not found any reference to that in beyond a particular line here and there. So is Parmenides justifying his opinion as being greater than, or his thought? Let's even like the usage of the word uh, opinion. Is he saying that whatever he is saying is knowledge because he received it divinely through a goddess, whereas other mortals like us uh, tend to rely on appearances? Okay, some people have said that this is directed at Heraclitus. Okay, so let's consider these different dimensions. Uh, he says that this is being uh, this is directed at Heraclitus, whom he insulted by calling a mere mortal. Because for Heraclitus, the world is always in flux. Okay, it is always in flux, which means it is constantly undergoing changes. Okay, constantly undergoing changes. In fact, some people impute a statement to Heraclitus. I doubt if it is him saying that. He's supposed to have said that the only constant in this world, I am not going to type out the whole thing. The only constant in this world is change. This is imputed, I'm saying, because it is, I have not found it in uh, Heraclitus. I have tried to understand Heraclitus, uh, but I have never found this statement in any of the things that I have read of his writings. But if you read commentaries, quite a few commentaries actually mention that Heraclitus talked about the only constant in the world is change. And it is in this context that he said that, no, sorry, Jesus, what have I done? He said, you don't dip your feet in the same river twice. Okay, this he definitely said, that you don't dip your feet in the same river twice. And most definitely, Parmenides contradicted this. Okay, he said that what you see as the flow of the river is the deceit of your senses. Okay, the river is the same, it's not changing, it's not changing form. Okay, so when you dip your river, you dip, sorry, what am I saying? Dip your river, dip your feet in a river, you're dipping them twice, thrice, however many times. Okay, unless it is in rapids, even if you're in the rapids, in my younger days, I went whitewater rafting because one of my classmates in Delhi was an adventure sport guy, and those were the days when I wasn't an elephant and I was quite a sinewy figure. And so I went whitewater rafting in the Ganges or the Ganga. Okay, and you don't say I went whitewater rafting in several different rivers. You don't. You say I went whitewater rafting in the Ganga, right? So is it really moving? Is the question. Well, a river moves. There is no doubt about that. A river moves, but just because you see that movement, can you really say that it is not the same river? The question is about that. The characterization. You don't dip your feet in the same river twice. That is what one needs to understand. So, is Parmenides basically saying that this is not a correct perception because the river is a river. It is a whole. We come back to that word where one great whole. So the river is also one great whole, right? So can you possibly argue and say, I'm not dipping my feet in the same river because this water which is here has moved till here? Can we possibly say that? I don't think we can. And that is probably the reason why, if at all it is true, Parmenides is throwing an insult at Heraclitus. It is, a huge derivation. It is a huge derivation and not something that you would put in a paper, whether it is an answer script or a paper that you write. So this we'll get rid of. Sorry, I have this terrible hypochondria. Okay, so maybe he did say it against Heraclitus, I don't know, but I think that part of it is best left alone. Okay, and Parmenides has this is again a very interesting thought. Okay, so let me, because it's a very longish thought, let me put it here. Uh, Jesus. Uh, Parmenides is talking about the structure of the cosmos. I'm not going to go back into the cosmos chaos argument. I hope you remember that cosmos is everything happens very, very purposively or for the sake of the fulfillment of a purpose, whereas chaos is a series of accidents with no relation to each other. Okay, so everything that happens for no reason. It is just a mere coincidence, mere accident, whatever it is. But cosmos is deliberate. Something happens for a reason. Like you being my students and listening to my nonsense is for a reason. Okay. So if we go by that, so he says the structure, Parmenides has given us the structure of the cosmos. Sorry, it has to be with a capital. For him, the structure of the cosmos is fire. And he describes this fire, or some people have translated this as flame. So let me put both and then I'll go into the argument of that. Uh, the usage of which is perhaps a more appropriate thing. The structure is something which is in the nature of a fire or a flame, which is, what does he say? Gentle, okay, and mm, what else does he say? Mild, mild. Uh, what is wrong with my memory today? Mild. What is the other word that he has used? He has used three words: gentle, mild, four actually, soft, and clear. Okay. Uh, I just hope that is what, yeah, that is it. And then he also goes on to say that this is what you get if you go by the way of the truth. Okay, this is what you will get. But if you go by the way of appearances, what you get is, no, what am I saying? What you get is ignorance and night, which are thick and heavy. Okay, this is what he says. If you go by the way of appearances, then what you get is ignorance and night, which are thick and heavy. So let's try to understand the first statement, that if you go by the way of the truth, your thought realizes that what we live in is a cosmos. And what is a cosmos? A cosmos is like, for him, some people have translated that into fire, and some people have translated into flame. I think we should go with flame. I'll tell you the reasons in a minute, but just let me explain this. Let's not use fire, let's use flame. The structure of the cosmos is flame, which is gentle, mild, soft, and clear. So that is what the cosmos is like. So why not use fire? Okay, why should we consider fire to be a wrong translation or an inappropriate translation? Flames don't rage usually. When we use language, you don't say there was a raging flame. Okay, we say there was a raging fire. All right, we say that you don't say that whole building was on flame. You don't say that. You say the whole building was on fire, right? So similarly, uh, you don't say the candle, you actually say the candle's flame is throwing some light. Okay, when you light a candle, what you say is that I have a flame. You don't say the fire of a candle. You don't say that. So I guess flame can be gentle, because if you take the example of a candle, and you can even put your finger like this in a flame, so it is quite gentle. It is mild. It doesn't burn you unless you put it there for a real long time. It is soft because you can do this, and it is clear because it throws light. But if you say fire, then the meaning changes completely. You do this with a fire, you'll probably burn. Uh, it is certainly not gentle. A fire is usually not gentle. When it is gentle, we don't use the term fire. Okay. When it is mild, again, we don't use the term. Uh, well, maybe we do. It's a mild fire. Do we? No, we don't. Uh, but clear, yes, it is clear. I don't know this soft thing. And another reason why I would ask you not to use the term fire, apart from a possible inappropriateness of the translation, is that if you say cosmos is fire, then you are basically saying what Heraclitus said. Heraclitus said that the world comes into being because of fire, the primary substance, according to Heraclitus. So then what would be the difference between Parmenides and Heraclitus? if you say fire. So I guess keeping that rivalry also in mind, I don't think it likely. Now it's a matter of conjecture. I understand that this is totally a matter of conjecture. But I think we can safely have some kind of a conjecture here that he wouldn't want to use the same terminology that he used against his rival. Well, I don't know if they were really rivals, but the way history is written, it shows them as rivals standing on two opposite sides. Okay, so we really don't know. Maybe they were not really rivals, but their thought shows a rivalry, most definitely. Okay, there is no doubt about that. And therefore, uh, I think it is best to eliminate this fire thing, okay, and call it a flame. So if you come across the word fire, please don't use that. When you write an answer on Parmenides, you must write an answer with fire and not with, sorry, with flame and not with fire as a word. Okay, so this is one thing that you should uh, keep in mind. Now, this is a slightly difficult argument. I'm trying to think of how to put this. Something cannot be thought of truthfully. Okay, something cannot be thought of truthfully, and thus, despite suggestions to the contrary, everything exists as a gigantic and unchanging thing. So, so let's put the word, the letter X here. X, whatever that it may be, cannot be thought of truth, truthfully, and thus, despite suggestions to the contrary, everything, in which case everything here is X. Okay, everything or X exists. What was I saying? Exists as a gigantic or a huge, you can use huge if you want, huge and unchanging. Is that making sense to you? X cannot be thought of truthfully. It cannot be thought of truthfully, uh, and thus, despite suggestions to the contrary, X exists as a gigantic and unchanging thing, which means what you have to do now is imagine X to be something which is small, okay? Something which is not very big. And if you want to imagine this small thing truthfully, you can't do it, okay? The imagination of X as something truthful is not possible if you're going to say that X is a small thing, right? And this, and thus, despite suggestions to the contrary is that X is a small thing. It's a small little thing that exists. That is the suggestion to the contrary. Everything, in this case, everything is X, or it could be something else. Everything that exists in this world, uh, everything exists. Oh no. Oh, I had to put another exists here. I was wondering why that was not making sense. Mm, everything, everything. I'm lost. I've got to rewrite this. I've not got it correct, the wording. So let me redo it. Okay. He says something, but I want to say that something is X. X cannot be thought of truthfully, okay, cannot be thought of truthfully despite suggestions to the contrary for uh, for everything that exists here, that is X, so let's put that in brackets. Everything that exists as a gigantic and unchanging whole. Please forgive me if you're seeing dogs in the background. Uh, X cannot be thought of truthfully. That is as a small thing. Despite suggestions to the contrary, oh God, I should have put a comma there. This is the problem with using computer software. There should be a comma after contrary, suggestions to the contrary, for everything that exists. You needn't put an X here actually. Exists as a gigantic and unchanging whole. So if you think of X as a small thing and that it can change, then you're not thinking truthfully. Because if you think truthfully, everything that exists as a gigantic and unchanging whole. Akshay, is that clear?
No, sir.
No?
No, sir.
Okay, there's something going seriously wrong here. Okay, see, he's still talking about people who tend to say things exist. Okay, uh, things in the plural. Okay, so he's talking about that. So he actually says some things cannot be thought of truthfully, some things in the plural, but I thought I'll put it in the singular, where one out of many, which we call X, okay, one out of many, which we call X, cannot be thought of truthfully. A small thing, a small part cannot be thought of truthfully despite suggestions to the contrary, because people like Heraclitus are saying that things can exist as smaller things, okay, and things are moving, and everything that is huge and big cannot exist, cannot move. Sorry. So you have to see it in this particular thing where he is saying that everything that appears by the way of truth is big and unchanging, huge and unchanging. Okay, that is what aletheia is about. Okay, so if you think of something, uh, oh Jesus, I've got it now. Mm, okay, I've made a mistake. Sorry, I didn't quote properly. Am I missing any other word? Let me get rid of Mr. Heraclitus first. Sorry. I'm really sorry. Mm, everything exists. Okay. Mm, I have been getting distracted by these dogs. I'm sorry about that. It shouldn't happen in a class. But yeah, X is not is the opposite of something is. Okay. So something is not, cannot be thought of truthfully. For despite suggestions to the contrary, now again I put it in whole, everything exists as a gigantic and unchanging thing or whole. So a part is not is incorrect. Did you get it now? Akshay,
Yes, sir.
did you get it now?
Yes, sir.
It does, going back to how badly I had worded that sentence, uh, um, out of nothing, nothing comes, right? That is the
Yes,
same logic here. Out of
yes, sir.
nothing, nothing comes. If I say out of nothing comes nothing, then that nothing becomes a something. And that is not truthful. You get what I'm trying to say? Because nothing
Yes, sir.
is not something. The rest of you, it's not just Akshay, because Akshay responds to me and asking him. I hope the others who are there are also getting this. X is not. That not I had forgotten and I was wondering why I am not getting it. Okay. X is not, or something is not, cannot be thought of truthfully, because for despite suggestions to the contrary, everything exists as a gigantic, unchanging thing or whole, and therefore there is no opposite of that which is not. In Parmenides, everything is, nothing is not, or everything is not acceptable. So everything is, okay, everything is, and it is not, hey, get off, sorry. Everything is, and now have you got it? Or am I confusing you further?
So will you please explain it again, like that sentence? I got a bit confused about everything is not in that sentence.
Everything is not.
I mean, nothing is not.
Who's asking me this?
Nirvani, sir.
Ah, okay, you mean out of nothing comes nothing. Is
Yes,
that
sir. Yes, sir. Exactly.
okay? Out of nothing comes nothing. If I put it that way, something is coming out of nothing. So that nothing is not a nothing, it is a something. Otherwise, how can it come out?
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Now I got it.
Right? So it
Yes.
should be out of nothing, nothing comes. So nothing comes.
Okay.
If I say out of nothing comes nothing, then I'm saying something comes. So that
Okay.
nothing is no longer a nothing, it is a something.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Did you get it now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I got it.
Did you get this other one also?
Yes,
X,
sir.
X is not. You cannot
Yes.
say X is not because everything is. There is no is not in the scheme of thought.
Yes, sir.
Everything that exists in thought is something which is gigantic, unchanging thing or whole. Okay, so you cannot truthfully say something is not because
Yes, sir.
everything is. Is that okay, Akshay? Akshay,
Yes, sir. Yes,
you
sir.
sure?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I went the wrong way. Sorry, it's my dogs. I don't know. They seem to be doing something behind me which I can't see. Anyway, so I'm sorry about this little distraction. Uh, so uh, I'll do one thing here. I'll stop with um, Parmenides here. Okay, because otherwise I'm getting uh, too caught up in Parmenides and not doing other things. So what we can do is that we can move on to Zeno and do a little bit of him today, just a small introduction, and then go to his thought. Is that all right with you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Madam Freshta, is Kirti Mr. or is it a Miss? Kirti, Kirti Garu, Kirti Garu. I think Kirti has just put this and gone off. That is what people do. Huh? Really, you don't really need to do this because, it's not important for me. If you're not listening to me, it's not important for me to have you in the class. Okay. So, okay, we'll come back to Parmenides uh, if necessary a little later. But for now, we who else is listening? Is anyone here at all?
Sir, Sir, I am listening, sir.
Yes, sir, I'm out.
I'm listening, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Freshta is listening.
Even Sharwani, sir.
Yeah,
I'm
any of
listening.
Rachana.
Rachna is also listening.
Hmm.
Sumanasri, sir.
Rachna, has this made sense to you? This X thing, X is not. Hmm? Sumanasri, has it made sense to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. So we'll stop with Parmenides here. Remember, this aletheia is the way of the truth. So Parmenides believes in the aletheia, and according to this, this is what we get. Doxology is, the study of appearance, the study of things. So that he discourages and says is deceitful. Okay, so now let's get on to Zeno of Elea. So since he's from Elea, he also belongs to the Eleatic school of thought. Very little is available to us about Zeno. Okay, very little is available to us about Zeno. And Zeno is somebody uh, who, according to people like Ernest Barker and Gerald Gompers, all these people say Zeno's mission in life was to protect the works and thought of Parmenides. Okay, now the only place where both of them are mentioned, the only instance where both of them are mentioned are in Plato's work Okay, Plato actually wrote, oh God, that there should be an apostrophe S. I'm sorry about that. Uh, Plato's work that is entitled Parmenides. In this, he mentions that Parmenides accompanied
Sir, I
by,
have a doubt, sir.
please go ahead. I'm happy.
Sir, Plato written only three books, isn't it? The Laws, the Statement,
No,
the
no, no,
Republic.
no, 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 no. Who told you this?
Most of the lecturers tell that he wrote only three books.
He wrote several books. I'm really sorry. The Republic, the Statesman, and the Laws. That's what they told you, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
No, no. He wrote quite a few. He wrote quite a few. There are these things called dialogues of Plato. Okay?
Yes.
Hey, shut up. Shut up. Dialogues of Plato should not be. This is a class and this is happening. Now, why were they put here? He wrote a thing on Socrates, Parmenides, and Pericles. Okay, so he has written about a number of people and a number of things.
Apology, the book written by him only, no? So I think.
Yes, Apology, spelled Apologie.
Yeah.
Yes. Who is this? Rachna?
Rachana.
Mm. Yes, you're right. Apology is also written by Plato.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. So, no, Akshay. Actually, he has written a few. They are not very big books. They are. That's why I'm calling them works. The Dialogues is also a very big book, like the Republic. His seminal work is the Republic. Most of his ideas that we need to understand as Plato's ideas are those which are contained in that. Okay. And Parmenides was accompanied by Zeno, and they visited Athens. Now, Plato actually, I'll stop here because it's 10:38 according to the clock here. Um, and just let me make one closing statement. Uh, Parmenides is estimated to be around 65 years of age when Plato said he came to Athens, accompanied by his disciple. He calls him that, his disciple Zeno. And Zeno was supposed to be about 40 years old. And he then does not give the age of Socrates, but he says Socrates received them, and Socrates was a very young man. So one assumes he was 20 or something like that. I'll stop here. We'll pick this up tomorrow. Okay, because actually Zeno even is described by Plato as a very handsome man and all that kind of thing. But we'll do that tomorrow. So thank you very much, and sorry for that brief confusion. I got very distracted. I'm very, very sorry about that. You have my unstinted apology for that. Okay, unqualified apology. It's just that these dogs are bothering me. I'm very sorry about that.
Okay,
To
sir.
all of you, sorry. We could have made more progress. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Right.
Thank you, sir.
Righto. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.